might not be a usual video, but honestly it also is, but you probably saw the thumbnail, and let's get into it, shall we? First off, I want to start by saying, Bungo Stray Dogs has nothing to do with the actual authors. The characters are completely separate from the actual authors, so don't be surprised when Kafka is disrespectful towards these authors because it's fictional. He doesn't care about disrespect. This is a very foreign concept to him. First off, about I already said first off, whatever. About Kafka being disrespectful. He made Dazai an abuser, and Dazai, a author who died to suicide, his entire comedic effect is suicide, is him committing suicide. It's used as a gag, and it's not funny, especially when the actual author died to it. It's insensitive, if anything. He also made Nikolai and Theodore terrorists, which I know this may come as a shocker to some people, but that's an ethnic stereotype. Nikolai and Fyodor are Russian and Ukrainian. Nikolai is Ukrainian, Fyodor is Russian. This is an ethnic stereotype that those ethnicities are, or nationalities, I don't know, are terrorists. They aren't. So that's also disrespectful. Also, the real life versions of them, Fyodor and Nikolai, weren't terrorists, just like how Mori wasn't, and pedophile. Also, I feel like this shouldn't be like a big debate on that it's like disrespectful, because Mori is already a mafia boss in the show, or mafia leader, whatever you want to call it. How is that not disrespectful? Like, it's just so weird. Atsushi in real life, which should be obvious, isn't a tiger. Yeah. Also, Atsushi also wasn't an orphan. He was born into a scholarly family. Just inaccuracy to the in real life people. Also, I feel like this would make it easier. I'm gonna call the real life authors or real life people by Mr. or Mrs. to show that I respect them and that they're the real people. I think it would be easier. So if I don't put Mr. at the first sentence or Mrs. with the real author, I'll probably correct myself in the editing. And I don't want to hear anything about the abilities being named after the books, so it's not actually the authors or whatever, it's the books. This is also not accurate. Crime and Punishment from Fyodor isn't about terrorism. The only thing it's about is like violence and psychological fiction. It has nothing to do with Fyodor's character besides being violent. So I want to go over Elise, aka the dancing girl, which is an actual story by Mr. Mori. The story is about pedophilia, believe it or not. The girl, Elise, is meant to be around 16, 17, I think. Meanwhile, the main character is in college. And I don't care if it's in Germany and back then it was normalized, it's still pedophilia. And with Kafka naming the ability after that, he should be able to recognize that. Or not naming the ability after that, but naming Elise after it. Also, I see people using the excuse, well, Elise was an adult in, like, the military area, like, when Yasano was a kid. Keep in mind, Mori changed Elise to be a child after he groomed Yasano. Also, grooming doesn't have to be inherently sexual. It can also be, like, just exploiting a minor, which he did. Mori is said to have a Lolita complex. So I heard someone say that, Lolita Complex is like about the fascination of Lolita fashion. I'd like to clear this up because it's not. If I'm being honest, I think anyone who is in the Lolita community would be offended by that because there has been a very long argument and debate on why those in the Lolita community do not want this style sexualized. Lolita Complex, I went over this in a previous video. It's the fetishization of little girls. For short, is lolicon. Not surprising. Kafka said in a tweet from like 2015, I think like February of 2015, he said he was adding someone on Twitter, and it says, quote, "Thank you for reading. Look forward to the antics of Lolicon Ogai. In parentheses, so sorry, Sensei Mori Ogai. In parentheses. Starting with Sensei Kido, there are still plenty of literary figures who seem like they could be nicely characterized. So please look forward to their future exploits. Thank you very much." End quote. Keep in mind, I only posted 2 times about Mori, and it was only in 2015. So there's no like current update on whether or not he still thinks he's a pedophile, but I mean, that's enough confirmation if I'm being honest. There's also another tweet from the birthday of Mr. Mori, and it says, quote, "February 17th was the birthday of Mr. Mori Ogai. In Bungalow Stray Dogs, Mr. Mori has an unbearable lolicon setting. But according to a warm comment from someone I met at a recent signing event who studied Mori Ogai at university, quote, it feels like it just had to turn out that way, doesn't it?" End quote. Mr. Mori. End quote from the tweet. I also like how he says, "In Bungalow Stray Dogs," because he's clearly separating Bungalow Stray Dogs from the actual authors, and it's really weird that the fans don't do that. And Omake in Bungalow Stray Dogs, volume 12, extra 50.2. Fukuzawa asks, "Who is that man to you?" In which Elise responds, "A pervert lolicon." And Fukuzawa says, "Understood, I shall inform the police at once." I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh well, actually it's a joke. It's an ongoing gag." First of all, that's never been confirmed. Second of all, even if it was a joke, you know where else Lolicon was joked upon? In Fruits Basket. It was Shigure, and Shigure is still a pedophile, despite it being joked about. From what I know, Namake is only not canon if the author specifies that. But from my knowledge, Kafka hasn't specified that. So it's canon. In Mori's character file, or like character profile, whatever you want to call it, it said he likes young girls. His skill, being a sexualist, it summons Elise, a skill-driven being with a sharp personality, just the way Mori prefers it. I feel like that says a lot. In Volume 6, Chapter 30, there is a dialogue between Fukuzawa and Mori. Fukuzawa says that he still lusts after young girls. And Mori says, "Do you still enjoy talking to cats?" Now I have 2 translations of this because I don't know which one's the official, because I don't have the book. The second translation is still very similar. It says, "Do you still have a fetish for young girls?" Mori says, "Well, aren't you still muttering to cats these days?" I don't know which one is the official, but whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. And I know Vita Sexualist is apparently a book about CSA, a semi-autobiography from Mori, Mr. Mori. I'm not saying Mori isn't a victim of CSA. And honestly, it's very unfortunate he was. I'm not trying to take away from that. I want to put in the fictional setting with this Lita complex. People try to use that as an excuse, and I don't think that's fair. First of all, like I said, the characters aren't connected. They aren't really similar in any way. Yes, they do have similarities, but they aren't like the exact same. They aren't a carbon copy. Also, studies, I talked about this in a previous video as well. Studies have shown that victims of CSA have become predators. I'm not saying that's what happened with Mr. Mori. I don't think Mr. Mori was a pedophile. I'm talking about Bungalow Stray Dogs Mori. Like I said, what happened is unfortunate. No one deserves to go through that. Don't think Kafka cares about respecting that. Also, I didn't really want to include this because I can't find the interview on it. There was an interview or something, a Q&A, something like that. Kafka says he would ship Chuya and Dazai if it weren't for them being named after the authors. Which again also says something because they're named after the authors, meaning he's not basing them off of the authors, he's just naming them. Again, I can't find where this like Q&A interview is. I've just seen a lot of people talking about it, so I apologize if that's not an actual interview or whatever. But I just want to point out, if he said that, there is like this video where he is on stage. I think it's at like a panel or something, and he's holding up a pride flag of Chuya and Dazai kissing. So much for that respect, right? I think my point stands, and I know this might not be a longer video, and I'm not gonna do a whole deep dive about it because there's no reason to. There's no reason to. We only have Bungo Stray Dogs to go after. That's the only source. We only have Kafka, and we only have Bungo Stray Dogs. It has nothing to do with the actual authors. It'd be like, oh, well, I was an abuser and wasn't an abuser, and then just like going into like this whole detail, then actual Dazai, Mr. Dazai, being like, oh yeah, so this is all the proof that he was an abuser. It's like, yeah, no dub. The character in Bungo Stray Dogs is, I just think it's stupid that the fans aren't just accepting that this Turf Bangs character can be a fucking pedophile. People say like, oh, well, actually, you saying he's a pedophile is a fan theory. No, it's not. Bro, evidence of it. Mori using this pedophilia as a reason for people to stay away from him. No, that's never been shown. This is something he's hidden. Public, he represents Elise as his daughter, not a victim. Yeah, I feel like these kind of people are always the people that drive away everyone else from the fandom because a lot of you guys are just really weird. Stay safe. Have a good rest of the day. Enjoy your life. Be happy. Don't argue with random people on Twitter for no reason. Like a certain someone. And don't listen to a person when their bio says that they've never had a good take in their life. Goodbye, everyone. I'm going to bed.